So, the post-credits of Zootopia 2 is really exciting for the future and for the relationship of your Wildehops, but what's even more exciting is the whole sequel. If you're someone who clicked on this video without watching the movie, then let me give you one big spoilers warning, because I'm your host Aryan and I'm gonna give you the full movie recap from the very beginning to the very ending, coupled up with the mid-credits and so the post credits. On that note, hit the like button, do subscribe if you love Zootopia content, and let's begin. Alright, so the movie begins only a week after the events of the first film. Wildehops are now working as a team, but things are not going well because of their lack of coordination. They have been following a stolen van but fails to grab it, and it takes them to your Dr. Fuzz, a couple therapist who plays a key role for the couples. They are assigned with the task of solving the case of the stolen van, but a big celebration is happening for the anniversary of Zootopia. Now that's where we are getting the first look of the Linksley family, who is defined as one of the most prominent and wealthiest groups of the city. The whole movie is about a book, which is having so many secrets of the past of Zootopia and who was the real founder.
This is our only chance to set things right.
In the celebration event, Gary makes his first appearance and kidnaps your Linksley alongside a book. Judy Hopps manages to listen to what Gary is saying, and he reveals how reptiles are not the villain but are the victims of a bigger conspiracy. Before he could say something else, Nick ends up hitting Gary in the style of Rapunzel but ends up following the words of Judy, who decides to help Gary. Now this is exactly when they face off the cops directly and escapes the event alongside Gary and the book, which ends up framing them as the partner in crime with Gary. Linksley, being the powerful family, ends up giving a new order to the new mayor, who decides to catch your Wildehops as soon as possible.
I want the fox and that rabbit. Do you know how many mayors they've already destroyed?
1, 2. I got up to 2.
Now, on the other hand, Wildehops ends up getting the help of Frou Frou and her family, who redirects the couple to Nibbles, claiming he will be the one to hide Wildehops by making them go underground. Nibbles is the one who knows so many secrets about the reptiles, and he helps a lot in the final act of the movie itself. While all these things were happening, the cops were also chasing and following the duo for catching them as soon as possible. However, there comes a moment when Nick and Judy goes into the honeymoon lodge in their investigation while keeping themselves under wraps. They also uncovers the reptile ravine, a place where all these reptiles were living for decades in harmony and love, all because they were forced by someone to stay out of the main city. Before we move forward, let me tell you one important phase which shows the maturity of the new chemistry of Wildehops. Before all these investigations, Nick was the one who was denying from going for any such mission to uncover anything about these reptiles. However, Judy was the one who wanted to bring justice for Gary. The sequel is showing a collapse in their coordination multiple times, but at the end, they were by the side of each other. Now, coming back to the recap, then the honeymoon lodge breaks apart, which separates your Nick and Judy. That's exactly where Pobbert comes into play, and he saved Judy from falling down alongside Gary. Meanwhile, Nick is arrested by the cops. One more thing, Pobbert is the one who wanted to prove himself to his family, and his mind is more like a chaos of trauma and stuffs like that, and I feel like the sequel is not exploring those factors that much. Anyways, Nick is arrested and Judy Hopps has teamed up with Gary and Pobbert to uncover why reptiles have been erased from the history. Now, Pobbert takes them to his camp so to avoid any type of suspicion while helping them in their investigation. When they were together, Gary reveals a big secret about the history of reptiles and Zootopia. He reveals the name of his great-grandmom, who is Agnes. She was the one who wrote the climate journal that supposedly found the weather walls of Zootopia, something which was a so-called innovation under the name of Ebenezer Linksley until now. Not only did evil Ebenezer claim the work of Agnes, but he also framed her for murder for leaving no chances for her to win the case. As a result, reptiles were forced to leave Zootopia, and that's why their homes are now buried under Tundra Town's construction. Hence, their entire legacy is now wiped out of the very existence. Secret is dark and is enough to show how dark the plannings of Linksley really is, right? Hit subscribe if you are loving the sequel so far, and now Moving forward then, a shocking twist was about to happen in the upcoming moments where Pobbert comes out to be the main villain of the movie. Yes, Pobbert Linksley, who was helping Judy and Gary until now, comes out to be the main villain and he ends up injecting Officer Hobbs with a venom, while stealing and running away with the anti-venom so to leave Judy and Gary to die. Now the poison was spreading in Judy while they were in the cold weather, which was also dangerous for Gary himself. That's exactly when Nick, who was behind the bars, is getting the help of Nibbles in breaking the jail. Nibbles ends up helping Nick and they meet Flash, who drives them to the climate wall to save Judy. Now it is one of the most intense sequences in the movie because Nick decides to confront Pobbert in a one-on-one battle. The fight is happening at the end of a cliff where anyone can fall and die. So when the pen slips out of reach, Nick makes the choice that defines his character. He trusts Gary and tosses the pen down the cliff, breaks everything else and decides to sacrifice himself for the sake of falling down alongside Pobbert to save Judy and others. That's the most heroic act of Nick in this entire franchise, where he decides to give away his life for saving others, and just when we were expecting a darker ending for him, Gary catches the pen and cures Judy, who quickly jumps to save Nick without thinking twice, and together with Gary, she saved him. It gives a lovely moment for this couple who expresses their gratitude for each other, and after that, they walks to the reptile ravine with Gary for the missing document of Agnes. They find it minutes before the Linksley try to intervene, but the document ends up proving that Agnes created the weather wall technology and was the rightful founder of Zootopia. This is the moment the series narrative finally cracks open. Judy and Nick are cleared of all accusations, the Linksley are arrested for covering up decades of lies, and reptiles, including the family of Gary, are welcomed back into Zootopia. Wilde Hobbs ends up getting the respect and they share a couple of more moments together before we finally see the mid-credits. Now, Gazelle is dropping her whole music video in the mid-credits before we finally move forward to the post-credits of the movie. It's this moment which defines the whole development of their chemistry of Wilde Hobbs, where Judy clicks on the carrot pen for listening to the confession of Nick.
Love you, partner.
Yes, he confessed it, and I don't know if you'll still call it friendly or just friends, but anyways, Judy gets a call from neighbor and she leaves the pen right there just before a feather of birds falls on it. Meaning Zootopia 3 will officially happen and the birds are now about to appear in the near future. Jared Bush himself is officially looking forward for the future of Zootopia and I'm covering it in a separate video. The link is pinned in the comments below, but long story short, that's your Zootopia 2 and now you tell me your theories behind this feather of bird. Hit the like button, do subscribe for more, and I'm your host Aryan. Thanks for watching, stay safe, peace out.